Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Good morning. Today, we are talking about ANSI ISEA Z358.1 shower and eye wash compliance. Thank you for being here for the master class. I'm going to be covering a lot today. It's going to be, drinking from a fire hose, but I promise you there will be lots of follow-up materials that will help you to lock in everything that I'm about to shout at you across the screen. But first and foremost, thank you very much for being here. I greatly appreciate it. We greatly appreciate it here at Haws. I think we're uniquely situated to pass this information along in a much more digestible, understandable format instead of grabbing a PDF and reading what is just a riveting document from beginning to end. So with that, I'm going to try to clarify this and simplify this as much as possible. So thank you for being here. Let's get started. So first thing and foremost, post questions at any time during the webinar. I certainly appreciate them. If you have a question come up and you want me to answer it, I'll do that because I like you so far. So the questions section is up there on your control panel. Be sure to use that. What we'll do is at the end of the webinar, I'll get to as many as I possibly can. And then for what I can't get to, we'll have an Excel document with your questions and everybody else's questions laid out and with my personal answers to those questions so that you can take that and share and learn and from everybody's questions. Now, if you're familiar with me, you may or may not know that I can be a little long-winded, and I don't mean to be. I'm just very passionate about safety and the standards and education, and that's all. So I get a little excited. And if we go a little bit long, the question section, I'll cover the primary content for the webinar in almost perfect time, I guarantee you. Watch that clock, I guarantee it. However, the question section is usually what runs long. So if you want to stick around at the end of the webinar, I'll go long and I'll hang out and I'll answer questions. And please feel free to stick around and hang out with me and I'll get to as many as I can. Okay, but be sure to submit those and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. This is recorded. If you've never been to Haws YouTube, that's where we house a lot of our webinar contents, our product content, etc. Please make sure you go visit that. We will share a link to the recording afterwards in a follow-up email that will be sent to you as quickly as we can after the webinar. I do have to get to that Excel spreadsheet, answer questions, get you those answers, which will be included in that, but we'll communicate as fast as we can after the webinar and get you a recording and etc. and so on. Also, answers or we'll reward you for doing a quick follow-up survey that's also going to be included on there, which is a coffee on us Starbucks gift card. So thank you very much ahead of time for your participation in that. That's greatly appreciated. We also have poll questions launched throughout the webinar. They're short, they're very brief, but we appreciate your feedback. It gives us insight into what you have going on, what your struggles are, what it is that you need, and how to better improve this product going forward, because we want this to be as useful as possible to you, especially with potential changes for the standard on the horizon probably later this year, so which will have a product for you and we'll be ready to go. So with that, my name is Justin Dunn. That's my face. I am the field marketing manager here at Haws. I've been here going on 11 years now. For quite a long time, very passionate about the safety standards, hydration, ADA standards, and relaying that information in a relatable fashion. If you ever go to a trade show, etc., you're going to run into me. With me is our special guest, our behind-the-scenes coordinator, is Samantha Boson. If you'll say hi real quick, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Samantha Bozen. I'm Justin's professional timekeeper, and my day job is product content coordinator here at Haws. We're super excited to have you all here. Thanks for joining.
I have two people in the office that keep me focused and distracted, and they're basically Justin Dunn babysitters, and Samantha is one of them. The other helped to prepare this the webinar and stuff and the communication. So big thanks to Ali. Moving forward, this is our agenda. What is the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 R2020 standard? We're going to cover it in depth, what to look for, how to test for those things. So we're going to cover the significant requirements, but also give you a little insight into how to test for those things and what to look for. Best practices for emergency equipment as well. We've learned a lot we've been doing and creating safety related items, emergency eye wash, safety shower since the 1950s. It's been a very long time, and we have learned a lot in that time. And I want to share some of those things with you, so that will come at the end of the webinar as well. Resources for achieving compliance, because if you're just learning this, if you're new to this, if you are seeking information and how to comply and what to do, I have some resources for you that we'll share there at the end of the webinar as well, and then we'll get to our Q&A. So we're going to dive into what the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 R2020 standard is and what it entails. The first thing you need to understand is who OSHA is. OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Everybody should know that, right? We all know OSHA. They are our health and safety administration in the US. Every country has a version of OSHA. And they are responsible for that regulation. Ours, however, OSHA is quite powerful, and their reach, you'd be surprised with how powerful and how limited their reach is, but they're responsible for that enforcement, for education, for many things. They're very important. Now, their standard, 29 CFR 1910.151C, for general but they're also under the construction. You have 1926.50. So this is communicated in a couple different ways in the standards, but the primary one that we'll be referencing is 1910.151C, but just know that there is a construction reference in this as well. Where the eyes or body of any person may be exposed to injurious corrosive materials, suitable facilities for quick drenching or flushing of the eyes and body shall be provided within the work area for immediate emergency use, which is cool. That doesn't tell me any additional information. It doesn't, what do I do? Where does it go? How does it function? If you visit me and you start wagging a finger at me, what do I need to do to make sure this is compliant, right? And unfortunately, there's no additional information here. That is the entirety of 29 CFR 1910.151C subsection C. So that's where the standard comes in. That's where Z358.1 comes in, because we need that guidance, right? And OSHA is going to reference that. Now, what we're doing with Z358.1 and adhering to it, utilizing it in our workplaces, is preventing injuries and fatalities, lowering workplace risk for the entirety of the facility, lowering lost time and money, right? There's very likely going to be litigation. There's very likely going to be many bills, including medical and otherwise, after the fact, right? The incident is unfortunate and it's awful, and it is going to potentially change somebody's life forever. And there's a lot of steps that come after that, and none of them are fun for anybody. So this will help to ensure that that equipment is working properly, right? I signed up to work here. You hired me. You promised me I'm going to go handle that dangerous chemical, and you're going to have properly functioning emergency equipment with me. That's what Z358.1 helps you to do. Now, OSHA has stepped up enforcement and will continue to step up enforcement, but on August 1st, 2016, they finally increased fines for the first time since 1990 by 80%. And then effective January 2nd, 2018, we have finally a additional 2% account for inflation for those fines, which had never increased. And now they are adjusting. So it's more important than ever to adhere to these. Just to give you some examples, around the country of what some of those OSHA fines look like, from big to small, right? You have 6-digit numbers, you have 4-digit numbers, and everything in between. And I mean, some of these are, one's a spaghetti factory, one's a Bay Area athletic club, battery company, property restoration, Arizona Traders, Hilti, blah, blah, blah. So many people and so many different types of facilities have an eye wash, a facility. Your local pool probably has an eye wash, or they should, given all those chemicals they're using. But most places do. Some restaurant kitchens have eye washes, right? It is very important that you stay compliant, you stay on top of it, you're testing on a regular basis. Otherwise, they don't mess around with these fines. And especially if they had to wag their finger at you more than once, that's when you get the big ones, right? OSHA said so, and you don't do it, that's a problem. Now, the standard itself was written by the ISEA. That's the International Safety Equipment Association. ANSI defines emergency eye wash and shower design, location, temperature requirements, and proper functionality and usage. Okay, the ISEA writes it. ANSI is the distribution for the standard. Okay, now OSHA references the ANSI standard during inspections and violation reporting. It is the recognized source for compliance to 419.10.151C. Very important. It was first published in 1981, revised in 1990, 1998, 2004, 2009, and 2014. We're hoping for a new revision to the standard, probably at the end of the year or next year, but stay tuned. If you've not signed up for our newsletter before, I highly suggest signing up for our newsletter. That will keep you up to date on those changes and what we have going forward. The 2009 revision of the standard included a temperature range for water delivery, which is huge. Before that change, it was just some guy, it was left up to you at the facility, and you were like, in 48-degree water and freezing, and you're like, this is fine, some guy trying to shrug it off. But we got a fully defined temperature range, which was really important. Simultaneous use requirements, eye wash testing requirements, and in 2014, mostly geared toward manufacturers of equipment and some adjusted measurements and equipment installation location, which was very important. Let's get into the significant requirements of the standard, how to test for those requirements. But first, we do want to launch our very first poll question. And again, your participation, highly appreciated. Samantha, if you would please.
Alrighty, first poll question of the day is, how often do you test equipment? Please do not answer if not applicable. Your choices are weekly, monthly, yearly, do not test, or unsure. Thank you guys so much. I'm seeing a bunch of great responses. These help us out a lot in the background of things. Thank you very much. I'll leave it going for a few more seconds just so we can get as many people as possible. Awesome. Alrighty, I will go ahead and end the poll. Again, thank you guys so much for your contribution.
The folks who said weekly, that was highly encouraging. But I'm so salt, like I've seen so much emergency equipment, and I've done so many surveys on sites. There were like 8 people that said do not test. I was like, I just appreciated that blatant honesty. I love that because it's so many facilities you go to, and it's sometimes it's not your fault, right? It's the Z358.1 standard and understanding what's required, and you're doing the due diligence. And some of them, I'm going to show you some great examples coming up of stuff that we have found that's just a nightmare. But I'll get to that in just a moment. Now, those weekly tests that I was just mentioning, they're very simple. However, some of your facilities are huge, right? And it makes it quite difficult to get to all of the emergency equipment. But all that's required is it's a very short process. So if you have emergency equipment, that equipment has to be activated on a weekly basis. The whole point is to empty the dead leg of the piping, just to clear it out, right? Avoid bacteria and sediment buildup that is otherwise going to affect the victim at the endpoints of that unit. Now, whatever heads of the device exist on the unit, whether there's an eye wash or an eye face wash or a shower, all points have to be activated to clear out that dead leg. Otherwise, there can be water that just gets stuck in a very short dead leg, even though you're clearing out the shower. You need to activate the eye wash or the eye face wash quickly and clear that out as well. The duration only needs to be long enough to clear out that dead leg. So if you're familiar with what the length of that dead leg is, it may take only a couple seconds. It may take maybe 30. I don't know if it's really, really long dead leg. Hopefully that's outdoors, so you can just let it rip and let it drain. Indoors, you're definitely going to want a test kit, but we'll talk about that. For portable types equipment, all that is required is a visual inspection of the eye wash. Open it up, make sure there's enough water, it's at the fill line for the manufacturer, and then sign the test tag and move on. If you're not keeping or documenting on test tags, I highly suggest doing so. That is often the very first thing that OSHA is going to ask for. We can show, hey, we are doing our due diligence, we are testing these, and we are capturing that information. Keep them for about 3 years, and you're good to go. Cycle those out, but very important to do. So portables, visual, plumbed equipment, you got to actually activate it, clear out that dead leg. Now, I know you're asking yourself, but Justin, what happens if I don't test? Which is a great question. And this is what you're going to run into, unfortunately. You're going to get the chocolate wedding fountain. I think it's concentrated evil up in the top left-hand corner. Gatorade, coffee, gray water. I don't know. Freaks me out. It looks like the stuff Gandalf was drinking in Harry Potter. Super gross. And this is why we're emptying out that pipe on a regular basis. We want to empty it out, clear out the bacteria, clear out the sediment. Wait until you get a normal, clear water coming out of the heads of the device, and then move on. Now, what you're going to need for an annual inspection is a checklist like you see here. Once a year, on an annual basis, you have to test your equipment from head to toe, right? Not just the weekly testing where we're activated, we're clearing out the dead leg, ensuring its functionality, but this is a full inspection of the emergency equipment from head to toe. We're testing everything we're about to cover in the standard. Okay? It's only required once a year, and I highly suggest doing it if you live in a colder area, do it during a colder month. So you're getting a very realistic expectation of how it's going to function. If there's potential freezing that occurs, if you're in a hotter area, it sucks, but do it during the hotter months, right? If you're testing it in, February, March, you might be getting great numbers, temperature readings coming out of that unit. Test it in the hotter months so we know. Nobody wants to stand under 110, 120 degree shower. The highest I've ever found was 27 degrees coming out of a shower, and it was awful. Burned my hand through the shower socket, and not too bad, but I felt it pretty quick. But this checklist is something we'll share with you. Now, that's going to bring us to poll question number 2, and then we'll talk about what you're going to need for that testing.
Perfect. Thanks, Justin. Now that we all have our appetites still, next question is, who currently tests your emergency equipment? Your choices are company personnel, a third party, me, no one tests our equipment, or not applicable. I'm seeing about 45% of you have voted. Thank you very much for your participation. Awesome. Getting a lot of company personnel. Perfect. Thank you guys very much. I will go ahead and let this run for a few more seconds, and then I'll go ahead and close it out. Thanks, everyone.
Sweet. I just wanted to see it tick over 70%. That was awesome. Thank you, everybody, for participating. It looks like a lot of your personnel in your facilities is doing the testing, which is totally normal. That's the usual. Sometimes it's the building engineers, right? Sometimes it's the safety team. Sometimes it's personnel in those individual areas assigned to their own eye washes and safety showers. It changes for most facilities. Now, what you're going to need for this testing is something similar to what you see on the right, or exactly what you see on the right. This is our Haws 9011 test kit. The tools that you're going to want to get your hands on are a good tape measure, okay, an eye wash gauge. This is designed based on the ANSI Z358.1 standard. They have a section with a drawing at the bottom that told us exactly how to make this thing, and I'll explain how it's used here shortly. You need a 5-gallon bucket with a 2-gallon water line mark, which I'll also explain. You need a shower sock with a good sturdy pole like you see there, because they call it a drench shower for a reason, and you don't want to walk around in soggy loafers and take a walk of shame through your facility. Thermometer, because we got to test the temperature, either the kind that you see there in the photo or a digital laser type is totally fine as well. And then a checklist so that you can go, requirement by requirement and work your way through the standard. Now, I'm going to explain how to use those tools more in depth as we get to the requirements that require the use of those tools, okay? But to start, the very first requirement that we need to be looking for is that it needs to be accessible within 10 seconds or 55 feet, okay? 10 seconds was based on the average amount of time it would take for you to be affected by what you've been exposed to. And that can translate a lot of different ways, even debris in your eyes to chemicals. After 10 seconds, you're starting to look at lasting damage to your body. Okay? 55 feet is a good, solid rule, though. I like measuring that distance with the tape measure and ensuring that it's within that distance. There is nothing that extends that distance in your facility. It has to be accessible within 55 feet. Check for the proximity. If you have to navigate a corner, if you have to navigate a turn, that's totally fine. What we want to do is make sure it's accessible, and as you can see here, it has to be free of obstructions. On the right, you have a collection of some of the very interesting obstructions that I have found over the course of my career, or browsing Reddit for compliance issues. In the top right, I think is one of my favorites. I think that's a tub of Rocky Road sitting there in the eye face wash. Anything that is going to take time for us to navigate, remove, etc., out of the way so that we can utilize the eye wash or eye face wash, we're in trouble. We will have to avoid any obstructions preventing us from using the equipment in a timely manner. Okay, and incredibly important. So watch for obstructions. Keep it within 55 feet, 10 seconds. Now it has to be located on the same level as the hazard, so no changes in level, no stairs, containment berms, things of that nature. Like, right, you probably don't have very good use of your eyes. And the likelihood that you're navigating to this equipment at a very fast pace, and the potential that you don't have great use of your eyes means we want a clear, unobstructed path all the way there, including changes of level. Okay, so if you have a hazard on the second, story, or a catwalk or whatever, and there's a high chance that you're going to be exposed there, you want an unobstructed path on the same level to emergency equipment that you can utilize. Now it has to be well lit and easily identifiable with highly visible signage. Okay? These two photos on the right, I think, are great examples of equipment that you could find. You could be working outside, be exposed to something, and for you to be able to pick these out on a facility, if you weren't already paying attention and highly aware of where that equipment was, or if you'd never used it before and you have to track it down, you want to be able to see it from a distance. And so well lit, highly visible signage, incredibly important. I was just in a pulp and paper not that long ago, and there's some mazes and some dark paths in there, and some of the equipment was tucked in a corner, not well lit, had signage. I just couldn't tell it was there if I hadn't been following the safety person with a map. So It depends on your facility, but make sure they're lit and you can identify it quickly. It has to deliver flushing fluid for a full 15 minutes. You'll find 15 minutes in the safety data sheet being pretty much the bare minimum amount of time that you have to spend in one of these. That 15 minutes is based on an average and data from a lot of different chemicals. And the time that it would take for first responders to get to you, I suggest staying in there as long as you can. Really ensure that you are fully rinsed off. This is so important because as first responders get to you, not only are they going to have to handle you, grab you, move you, right? But if that isn't off of you entirely, it's going to affect you all the way to the hospital. Okay, we want that stuff off entirely. So full 15 minutes. To test this, you got to run the equipment for 15 minutes. I highly suggest, because this is difficult to do in a lot of situations. Think about a clean room in a hospital, or I mean, there's so many different scenarios. Running for 15 minutes can be very difficult. Test your facility's capabilities to provide that 15 minutes, right? If it's all on the same leg or loop inside your facility, testing one is telling me that everything on that line is going to work. Still go test all that other equipment, turn it on, but probably activating just one on that loop for 15 minutes will fully suffice, right? Because it's the same supply line, okay? Ensure the tank size is correct. Ensure that your water heaters, etc., are large enough to sustain this equipment for a full 15 minutes. Okay, there's a couple ways. Or get a service team to come check it out for you. We have one I'll talk about here a little bit later. Now the outlets shall be protected from airborne contaminants. This means your dust covers need to be in place. Just make sure they're secured when you go to test. Now this can mean a couple different things. You can see two different dust covers here in on the screen. One, a cap that is sitting on top of the eye face wash head. One, a jacket. This is an excellent type of dust cover. And when you grab that handle, this part is incredibly important because both of these work the same way. As I grab that handle or I activate that paddle, the dust covers have to be self-removing, okay? Now our activation handle, for instance, on that jacket, if I were to grab that handle and tear down, it's gonna take the lid and peel it down with it. No matter what, if you approach emergency equipment, you need single point, like activation. For the dust cover, you can't have any additional steps to remove the dust cover. It all has to happen in under 1 second and in one motion, okay? You don't want separate things that you want to have to mess with, okay? But as long as everything happens in under 1 second, you're good to go to activation, that is. I'll cover that here in a second. But both of those work technically the same. So ensure it's all coming off in that one step. Now, the actual requirement for the equipment is that it go from off to on in 1 second or less. However that has to happen, for instance, our equipment is all CSA certified to activate from off to on in 1 second or less for the Z358.1 standard. That's stuff you want to look for on equipment, is that type of certification, okay? If you're getting your emergency equipment off of Wish, then please ensure it has those certifications and it has been tested and it does comply with the Z358.1 standard. This, for instance, you can see as he is utilizing the pull rod, the push flag, the equipment is coming on immediately. Also, that water is not tepid. You can see the second the water hits him. That's my buddy McDean. He's down on the production floor. He is our manager down there. He does a great job, but he is freezing right now. I love that gift. All right, now the equipment, again, off to on in 1 second, right? That has to be without the use of the operator's hands. Continued use, right? You can activate the equipment, but you have to be able to let it go, and the unit has to maintain functionality and the water flow without the use of the operator's hands. If you have self-closing valves in place, and they look like what you see here on the screen, the three examples on the left, those need to be removed. You need stay open valve systems that allow it to be activated. You can let go and continue using the device. I can rub my belly and pat my head at the same time. I can't hold my eyes open, remove my clothing, activate a shower, hold open an eye face wash, etc., all at the same time. This is very important. So make sure you have self closing valves removed and you have stay open valves in place. The other type of hazard that you want to look out for is the example on the right. Okay. Not only is that a self-closing valve that's on that unit, but think about how high off the ground that eye wash is, and look at where the eye wash heads are pointing at the sign, right? Can I activate this, mount it, and just let it go and utilize it? I cannot, right? Ensure that the equipment in the way that it is mounted does not include the continued use of the operator's hands. If I have to hold that valve open, point it at my eyes to continue using it, that is non-compliant. Now, eye washes have to deliver 0.4 GPM or 1.5 liters. Eye face washes, 3 gallons or 11.4 liters per minute, and showers, 20 gallons or 75.7 liters. And for a combination unit, for instance, like you saw before, say an eye face wash and drench shower would be 23 gallons per minute total that they have to deliver. That water they're delivering has to be at a controlled flow. So we cannot have an injurious amount of water coming out of the heads of the device, which means if your eye wash is actually a brain washer or a ceiling tile washer, or the shower head is busted and you're getting a jet of water shooting down on you instead of a nice, even spray pattern like you see here, that is a serious problem. It has to be non-injurious. And think about the condition your body's in here, right? You may have potentially been exposed to chemicals. You're pulling a Wicked Witch of the East, and you're in bad condition. This water, this is 20 plus GPM dumping out of the shower head alone. And if it is uncontrolled, it is going to be a horrific experience, okay? Like you see here in this shower, this is evenly distributed across the entire user. It feels like a heavy rain coming down on you rather than a jet or heavy amount of like a waterfall of water. That's what you want to look for. We want victim comfort. We do not want injurious. We don't want to get you, peeled like an onion. Eye wash flow rates 0.4 GPM, and again, eye face wash 3 GPM. You can see what happens here when we have too much and too little, right? The left example, again, that ceiling tile washer, right? This is the last eye wash you'll ever use. This is gonna hurt. This is not gonna feel good in any way, shape, or form. And on the right, you gotta pick your favorite eye. And that's not an experience we wanna put anybody through. So ensure that we are delivering the correct amount of water. If it's an eye wash or an eye face wash, a 1/2-inch line is ideal. If it is a combination unit or a shower by itself, 1.25 inch supply line is required. And go through the manufacturer, look at their specifications, their installation requirements, and you'll see those similar measurements on there. But that's pretty much the bare minimum for each of those sizes. Now, the way we test the eye wash is by using this gauge. I mentioned this earlier. This is our 9015, is our model number. But again, this was designed by the ISEA. They gave us this information. They told us how to make this. That's their drawing on the right. And it is based on average human anthropometrics. They said, if you use this gauge and the water streams from the eye wash or eye face wash hit the eye circles and fill in that eye circle, then on an average, it is going to hit your eyes based on average human anthropometrics, measurements of the human body, right? Most of our eyes are pretty much in the exact same place. So unless you're Sloth from the Goonies, you should be good to go. That gauge is very simple to use. I'll show you exactly how to use it. You want to measure 8 inches up from the eye wash heads or eye face wash head. Measure up 8 inches, start with the gauge there, and then slowly lower it to ensure that the streams from the eye wash portion are hitting within those eye circles. Then we know it is going to align with your eyes. This will provide compliant rinsing for both of your eyeballs, and you will be good to go. So remember, measure up 8 inches, start with the gauge there, slowly lower it. Any point between 8 and 0 inches, if it aligns with the gauge, it is compliant. Here's an above view just so you can see what it looks like with the water hitting in the gauge circles. You can see making contact dead center on the both of those using our Axion head there. Within compliance, good to go. Now the face wash gauge, there is no face wash gauge is what I was trying to say. But for the face wash, you want to, there's no measurement for it, there's no gauge for it, but ensure that it is functioning at about a little over where the eye wash would hit. This face wash is, you can see the gauge starts wide, and as it goes down, the gauge aligns, and the face wash is at the height of the eye wash streams now, meaning it's going to hit your face, it's going to rinse you, but we want a good performance out of that face wash too. Though there's no official measurement or gauge for it in the standard SOE. Now the flow pattern for that eye wash or eye face wash has to be between 33 and 53 inches from the floor. That's the top of the flow pattern, not the heads of the device. That doesn't matter, right? 33 to 53 inches, the top of the flow pattern has to be within that, where it would, because we want the gauge or our eyes to align in that 33 to 53 inch measurement. And that's because, again, anthropometrically, some of us are tall, some of us are short, but on average, we can reach and utilize the eye wash or eye face wash at that height, okay? So measure from the floor, ensure the flow pattern doesn't exceed that. I've never seen one in my entire career, I think, that is below 33 inches. The flow pattern, that would be just crazy. But over 53 inches constantly, right? Uncontrolled, they don't have flow controls in them, and they are exceeding that and creating compliance issues. Now, the flow pattern from the eye wash or the eye face wash has to be a minimum of 6 inches from the nearest obstruction. That's a wall or anything. That's to ensure that you're not going to hit your head on anything that's going to obstruct you from utilizing it. And you have a measurable safe distance around the streams of that from the center of the streams so that you can fit your hands in there and spread your eyelids and so on. So take a tape measure, measure around from the center of the flow pattern, ensure that you have 6 inches of clearance, and you are all set. Now the shower, this is the scary part. If you've never tested one before, some of these put out closer to 30 GPM, right? Some of these it's a lot of water. So hold on tight of what I'm about to explain. So when you get to the shower head, we want our 5-gallon bucket, 2-gallon water line marked. We want our shower sock and pole. Hold on firmly. I like to extend it just a little above the shower head and kind of lock it up against it just to ensure, because I've tested so many, you really don't know what you're going to get until you turn it on. You need the thermometer as well. So put that thermometer bottom of the bucket, right? Because we want the water on it, and it's going to take a couple seconds to get an accurate reading. Place the shower sock around the shower head, run the bottom into the bucket. Please don't forget that part. That would be a soggy walk back out of the facility. Activate the eye wash or eye face wash if one is present, okay? This unit is designed to function that way, and we want to test it that way for a very particular reason, to look for starvation of the eye wash or eye face wash when the shower is activated. I'll explain that more here in a moment. Activate the shower for 6 seconds. After that 6 seconds, quickly deactivate and check that the 2-gallon water line level on the bucket was met. This is the same as a nurse checking your pulse at the hospital. They're not going to count for 60 seconds. They're going to count for 10 seconds or less and do the math in their heads. We're doing the same thing. 6 seconds, 2 gallons times 10, 60 seconds, 20 gallons. Okay? So at 6 seconds at 2 gallons, we know that we're hitting our 20-gallon minimum for the shower. And as long as we're not hitting starvation on the eye wash or eye face wash, we know where we are compliant. You can dump that water wherever. Oh, look, I will give you a tip though. I was once on the top of a cooling tower for an energy facility, and we started at like the eighth floor or something. And there's a little string on our thermometer. Tie it to the side of your bucket. I dumped my bucket over the side of the building like he told me to, and my thermometer went 8 stories down. We had to take a long walk down the stairs to go get it, and I was pretty thoroughly embarrassed. So make sure you tie that off. Now, shower flow pattern. Left good, right bad. Right? We want a compliant 20 inches wide at 60 inches above the floor surface of the user. Okay, so measure up from the floor 60 inches and then measure 20 inches wide. This is also based on average human anthropometrics and shoulder spacing to ensure if we are standing under that shower, we are going to be fully engulfed in water. This is incredibly important. The shower also has to be obstruction free. So while there is no measurement in the Z358.1 standard that says you need this amount of clear space in front of your shower or eye wash combination unit in your facility, because some people paint the floor. That used to be a requirement way back in the day in the ANSI standard. It is no longer. But if you want a clear, defined number of like how much space you have to put in front of your unit, that space is 32 inches. That is based on that 16-inch measurement, okay? So from the center of the column, 16 inches, you have to be free of obstruction. Okay, so measure out, put a good amount of space there in front of the unit, and but you can't have anything in that column of water. In the past, I've found supply pipes, walls, etc., that intruded on that. So make sure you can fully fit within that flow column and to stay compliant. Now, just like my buddy Bill here is doing, he's measuring 20 inches across that flow pattern at 60 inches above the floor. That's all you're doing, right? Eyeball it, and if it's questionable, you're gonna have to really get in there. But I usually just 20 inches, eyeball it, make sure it's exceeding the edges, and you're good to go. The shower head itself, the actual outlet of water, not the bottom of the bell, the outlet of water, has to be between 82 and 96 inches above the surface floor of the user. This is to make sure that it's not too low and it's not too high for the user. If it's too low, it could be injurious. It may not cover your entire body. If it's too high, it's not going to cover you enough. It's going to cover, sort of spray you and everybody nearby. So ensure 82 to 96 inches and just measure from the floor to the outlet of water, whether it's a nozzle, a dispersion plate inside of the shower head, etc. That's what we're measuring to. The pool rod also has a maximum height, and that is 69 inches from the surface floor of the user. So measure from the floor to the bottom of the pool rod. As long as it is below that 69-inch max, you are compliant. This is to ensure that the shorter amongst us are capable of reaching the pull rod. If we place it too high, then they may not be able to. And it doesn't matter if you're super tall, you can reach the pull rod at any height. And if you're a little bit on the shorter side, then you'll be able to reach up, grab the pull rod, and pull it, so long as it is under that maximum height. You also need to consider ADA and other considerations. If you have employees that have a need for a much lower pull rod, put one in place. We sell those. We have super long pull rods you could throw on your emergency equipment. And from a wheelchair position, ensure that that is an extended pull rod for reaching range requirements for the ADA and et cetera. But we sell like fully ADA compliant equipment that you if you have the necessity for it. Now, combination unit components shall be capable of operating simultaneously and shall be positioned so that the components may be used simultaneously by the same user. Can't tell you how many combination units or other emergency equipment I found where the shower head was pointing one way and the eye wash was pointing the other way. This is designed for one person to use at the same time simultaneously. Okay, you cannot have, go this way to rinse your body and go that way to rinse your eyes. This is designed for one person. We can also, this is the starvation that I was talking about. They have to be capable of operating simultaneously. The shower is the path of least resistance for that water, right? 20 plus GPM coming out of that head. It can and will starve the eye wash or eye face wash if there is not enough water supplied to it, or if you have insufficient supply lines. If you have eye washes or eye face washes that use that foam filter in there, so that gets all gunked up and stuff, and sometimes you'll see a starvation occur there, or if you have buildup in the lines. But ensure that they're operating simultaneously. Okay? And you can do that during your test with the 9011 test kit. Shutoff valves have to be locked in the open position to prevent unauthorized shutoff. I suggest Lotto devices because there's a lot of them built for this purpose. Some valves already have a locking mechanism on them. They have to be locked in the open position. Certainly if they're accessible to employees. If there's one 30 feet up, in the ceiling where nobody can get it, I think that's another story. But generally, if it's an accessible valve, they're typically connected like pretty a short distance from the shower or eye face wash. Lock them open, so that maintenance can unlock them, turn it off, perform their maintenance, and then relock it open, ensuring that it is in the open position. I can't tell you how many pieces of equipment I've thrown on and there was zero water, only to find that the shutoff valve was in the off position. Employees have to be trained. You have to instruct them where the equipment is and how to use it. This is incredibly important. Often in oversight, I think we kind of take emergency equipment as a duh type of thing. Like, yeah, you push the paddle and you pull the pull rod, but not all emergency equipment is built the same. And it's very important that your employees understand, where do I go and how does that one that I need work? Okay? Because there are some differences out there. So make sure you question your employees on location and how to use it. Where the possibility of freezing conditions exist, you have to have freeze protected equipment in place, like you see on the right. The 7603T there is a portable heated solution, good down to negative like 20 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 30 degrees Celsius for my homies up north. The model on the right, plumbed, right? So you're going to see plumbed equipment like that outdoors as well. CTFD models, which are cable trace freeze protected, ensuring that they are that heated line inside of both of these is preventing freezing down to extreme temperatures. So you have to have something like that in place. There's also Berry valves for emergency equipment. There's equipment that can be installed on the outer wall of a facility with the valves indoors. There's lots of ways to do this. But if it's going to freeze, you want something freeze protected in place. Now the flushing fluid has to be delivered between 60 degrees Fahrenheit and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius to 38 degrees Celsius. Okay. Lots of ways you can do this too. As you see on the right, mixing valves, instantaneous electric heaters, instantaneous steam heaters. There's lots of ways to accomplish this. If your facility is already pumping out like 75 degree water in your walls year round, then you're good to go. But it has to be within that range. We aim for 85 degrees. That's like the golden temperature for us. That's non-reactive with corrosive chemicals typically. And it's just warm enough, like it's not going to be a nice home shower, but it's just warm enough that it will encourage the user to stay in the emergency equipment. So test this, run your water. I highly suggest sticking, if you're going to do this for your annual test the temperature a little further into the actual like 15-minute type of test to ensure that you're getting a deeper measurement into that time to ensure that it's staying within that range. Now, if it fluctuates but stays within that range, you're compliant. Now, too cold, and what we're risking if it is too cold is hypothermia, cold shock, possible cardiac arrest, right? We are already the outer insulation of our body is potentially already compromised, right? If we have been exposed to corrosive materials, we will bleed heat very quickly if that is not in place and intact. Okay, and if we're dumping 60 degree and less water, hypothermia can come on very quickly depending on your build. Okay. Now, this may also cause the user to end flushing before the recommended time has passed, that 15 minutes, right? Too cold and they can't force themselves to stay in there. We've heard horror stories of employees having to force coworkers to stay in the shower. And they may not remove their clothing, which is incredibly important. Now, if it's too hot, 100 degrees Fahrenheit or more, right? So at 100 degrees, that is the low end. That is the beginning of the scalding process for soft tissue on your body. Think your eyes, right? So at 100 degrees, you are slowly taking damage from that water. And you can imagine what 120 plus degrees Fahrenheit is doing to your eyes, the soft tissue on your face, your skin. You will start to scald and take damage, and you can't have that. So please focus on getting that temperature within that range. Again, 127 degrees I ran into once. That was just crazy. I couldn't believe it. You know what? I even have the video. Maybe I'll put it in the next webinar. But there's steam coming off of the eye wash. It's crazy. But hyperthermia, we're heating up too quickly, which will cause confusion and heat stroke. And you need to be able to communicate clearly what were you exposed to, how long were you exposed to it, and other important medical information that you need to be able to relay. It may force you out of the shower too early, and that hot can react negatively with certain chemicals. Now, supplemental equipment, the bottles, take this in. These are real, unfortunately. Supplemental squeeze bottles they have their place, and they can be important. The purpose of them is to have an immediate bottle of rinsing fluid to be able to flush your eyes out so that I can start moving to a piece of plumbed emergency equipment quickly, right? And unfortunately, they live in place too long. People replace them with crazy stuff. I mean, you've got the burn it out option over on the left. I think that's toilet bowl cleaner, the second one. The Biltmore, the wine doesn't upset me, honestly. That really doesn't seem like that's that bad. Because I have my eye rinse there, and then, a glass of wine is probably not going to sound that bad right there. You have a frozen one. The Big Gulps, if they were filled on a daily basis, maybe not that bad, honestly. I don't even know if I could call them non-compliant if they were filled daily. But you don't want that sitting there. You want something sealed, something ready to go. And then the spoon and knife is just, that's overkill. That's right. We've come too far. It's time. Now, this equipment is important though, right? These bottles can be provided immediately where I'm working. I can grab it, crack it, open it, spray my eye out, and start moving to that emergency equipment. But that is how they are supposed to be and have to be used. These are not to be used by themselves. If you have a facility of only squeeze bottles, that's non-compliant. These two are only to supplement primary plumbed equipment. Now, quick consideration. In Appendix B, Section B5, we have a consideration for change in level. Okay, so this type of equipment that you see here on the right cannot be made to be flush with the ground. These are designed to catch the water, and which is an absolute necessity in many emergency equipment situations and emergencies. This can't be made flush with the ground, so we have an exception. We can have one single step into an enclosure. Okay, and so keep that in mind. But it has to be an enclosed shower combo unit like you see here. Otherwise, there's no change in level. Another consideration is a door. These constitute an obstruction unless they meet the following criteria. It has to be non-locking. The doors have to open in the direction of the emergency equipment, and the hazard has to be non-corrosive. And you have to have a push bar or panic bar operated activation in place, just like you see on the right. That'll bring us to poll question number 3.
Thanks, Justin. Alrighty, now that we know a little bit more about ANSI compliance, your question is, what are your primary ANSI compliance issues? Please check all that apply, but please do not answer if not applicable. Your choices are accessible location, tepid water, injurious/uncontrolled flow, low flow or uneven flow, and eye wash and shower simultaneous flow issues. Seen a lot of great answers. Thank you guys so much for your participation. We'll give it a few more seconds. Let everybody get their votes in. Alrighty, and I'll be closing out the poll in a few seconds. Thank you guys so much.
Looks like location and tepid water were kind of winners there. Now, a couple best practices, just a couple reminders. Remove your contacts. If you have contacts in, get them out, even if you're risking potential cross-contamination from your face to your hands, get those contacts out. You do not want those fusing to your eyeball, and once the eye wash hits your eyeball, it may push those contacts and trap contaminants in the back of your eye. Okay, you don't want that. Disrobe completely. You got to be in your birthday suit. That includes socks, shoes. It is not time to be shy in front of your coworkers. This is a very serious emergency, and you've got to get it off because it will trap contaminants against your body. With that in mind, provide privacy curtains. This is not, a great deal of cost additional. That's a 9037 on that combo on there on the right. There's even a little robe. It's not anything fancy, but it's a robe. I think it's Tyvek that you can throw on after your emergency to maintain some decency. But you can have that curtain in place so you have a little more privacy. Don't remove your PPE before entering the equipment. If you are sprayed, splashed, whatever, with contaminants, do not remove that PPE. Get into the shower first and start that water, then start to peel off layers. Okay, otherwise you risk cross-contamination. If you're wearing a face shield, you may expose your face, right? Be cautious. Don't remove that PPE right away. Be cautious while assisting others not to contaminate yourself. If you're going to guide somebody, yell and scream at them, but do not grab them. Otherwise, again, cross-contamination. Ensure the correct type of signage is in place. I shouldn't have to say this next one. And it should be clear to you that since it's on this list, this happens fairly frequently. But be cautious not to put it immediately adjacent to an electrical outlet. Just just from Justin Dunn to you. Don't do that. Locate other first aid equipment nearby, right? First aid station, whatever else. Put it nearby to that so it's accessible. Make first aid stations, right? And clean your equipment regularly. Ensure that it is functional and you're cleaning out those heads regularly. Dip it in some CLR, get that calcium buildup out of there and put it back into service. Now, I like this because I think it's great technique. That's the Nard dog there in the video. But this is excellent technique. I want to drive this home. When I tell you use your fingers to lift your eyelids, I mean get in and peel your eyelids back and start rolling your eyes. Okay? You need to get in there. Okay? Not passively splash some water on your eyes. Make sure that you are really getting those eyelids back. Really quickly, this is the 535.1 compliance. Different ANSI standard, but I want to drive something home with you. Red means danger, stop. Yellow is caution. Orange is warning, which is like cut, crush, or injure. Green, which is the color of a particular manufacturer's emergency equipment whose webinar you may or may not be attending right now, is the location of safety equipment. There's lots of different, you can find orange ones and yellow ones and blue ones and pink ones out there. Green is the universal indicator for safety equipment and safety, and make sure that you are adhering to Z358 compliance as well, which will bring us to Samantha. You get to stop hearing my voice for a short period of time. But not too
Alrighty, I'm here to show you guys the truth about compliance rates and give you a few resources to help get you back into full compliance. Here at Haws, we run site surveys. We have been running these for a very long time, and over the years, we compiled all that data to see the percentage of units that are actually meeting full compliance, and that's what you're seeing on the chart to the right. 8 out of 10 attendees believe that over half their equipment meets the ANSI standard, when in fact 78% of emergency equipment is non-compliant. And that's the huge red slice that you see up there. These are non-compliant performance-related issues. That's when you see injurious or uneven flow rates, starvation, etc. The 10% on the chart accounts for non-compliant other, and that is any issue not related to performance. That could be missing or incorrect signage, dust covers weren't on the unit, anything like that. Overall, we see only 12% of units are actually fully compliant, so a lot can go wrong when it comes to compliance, but no need to fear, that's what our site surveys are for. And the best part about those site surveys is they're completely free. You'll get a full one-day inspection of your units completed by professionals who are trained in the ANSI standard. Keep in mind, restrictions do apply depending on how many units are at your facility, but we will ensure to complete as many units as possible. You will also receive an inspection report that will include photos and evidence of the non-compliant areas we find, as well as an executive summary chart. Recommendations will be given in the report, so you will have solutions to the issues that we find. A really great perk is that you'll be given access to a subject matter expert who will debrief those findings with you. This is all completely confidential, so your secrets are safe with us. This is an incredible program to give you the insight to meet full compliance. And if anything I just mentioned sparks your interest and you'd like to learn more, then poll question number 4 is for you.
I'll have to say on top of what Samantha said, the photos are game changing. If your third party inspection service includes a trust me bro, that's not ideal. You want an inspection report with evidence, okay? And we can do that for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. And I launched the poll, but in case you haven't gotten to it yet, the question is, would you be interested in a free site survey of your existing emergency equipment for ANSI compliance? Your choices are yes, no, or not applicable. We're having great participation. Thank you guys so much. This helps us a lot in the background of things. And I will go ahead and end the poll. All right, next thing I'm going to cover is Haws services. I'm sure you guys are super busy people and there's probably a lot going on in your facilities for whatever reason it may be. Maybe you're short-staffed, your to-do list is piling up, or you just have way too many units to test. This is when Haws services will come in and fix all of that for you. Just like how you outsource maintenance on AEDs, first aid kits, or fire extinguishers, I highly, highly recommend outsourcing for your emergency equipment needs. Haws Services will send a fully qualified professional to you. They're trained to work on any piece of equipment from any manufacturer, so Haws, Speakman, Guardian, you name them, they will service them. They will also come out to any type of facility that you have. Haws Services will also provide a comprehensive site evaluation with training on how to test your equipment. I can't say this enough, but the Haws service techs are really amazing. They're not only going to give you the full evaluation and training, but they're also going to fix all of the issues that they find. The services they offer are amazing. They can do weekly and annual testing for you. They offer preventative maintenance and contracts, repairs and upgrades, startup commissioning on new equipment if you're looking into more complicated units like our skids. And as mentioned, they also offer online training and certification, as well as warranty service. If that sounds up your alley, you can visit us at hawsco.com, or you can say yes to the next poll question. We'll go ahead and launch it. And the question is, would you be interested in learning more about Haws services, about how Haws services can help you achieve ANSI compliance? Your options are yes, no, or not applicable. So if you answer yes, we will go ahead and reach out to you and be in contact with you. Thank you so much for your participation. Looking really good. I'll leave a few more seconds for you guys to get your answers in. Really love all the participation. Ooh, and the emojis that we're seeing.
Emojis!
I love it. All right, I'll go ahead and end the
They just go crazy with it. It's like
go wild.
All right, so we're gonna get into the questions and answers. Okay, I'm gonna just spend my time hanging out with you. We're gonna go dig into some of those and just hang out. So if you have the time, hang out with us. Stay here. Otherwise, I'll get you an Excel spreadsheet that had Q&A on it. With that, just real quick, Justin Dunn, Field Marketing Manager, JustinD@Hawsco.com is the recipe for how to get a hold of me. Haws customer service is top notch. It doesn't get better than them. They're awesome. 775-359-47112 or a toll-free number, and their email is there. Reach out to them if you have or need anything. They are sincerely awesome and can answer all your questions. We also have a live chat function on the website. If you don't want to talk to a person, you can quickly shoot them a message on the website. Speaking of the website, it does not get better than Hawsco.com. I promise you. I've snooped all of our competitors' websites. Ours is awesome. Ours is the best. It's thorough. You can find spec sheets, you can find videos, you can find resources for compliance. There's so much to go through. I promise you, it's incredibly useful. Configurators and etc. So please go check it out and sign up for the newsletter. I promise you, we don't bug you too much, and it has actual useful information in there, and not just Justin's hard sales pitch every month. Okay, so. With that, let's get to the Q&A. So, Samantha, if you would, what do we have so far?
Alrighty, first question from John. Thank you for your submission, John. To your knowledge, are state and federal regs typically implemented synonymously with respect to eyewash compliance?
Yeah, so both federal and local level regulations have to be considered. However, local regulations don't automatically supersede federal regulations unless those regulations require efforts above and beyond the current federal requirement. They have to be more strict than what's required at the federal level, but all have to be considered when you're looking at equipment and testing it and ensuring compliance. You want to ensure that local considerations and requirements are taken into consideration at the same time. Don't allow one to go by without looking into the other. That's super duper important. Because there's some weird ones out there. Holy cow.
All right, let's see if I can get through this all. Next question from Diane. They ask, please send a summary of the ANSI standard for emergency eye washes in construction. I hear different opinions of why it is required, metal particles from cutting, hazardous chemicals, etc. What triggers the use of one on site? I always state that if the SDS states you need one, then you need one. But does the ANSI standard or another OSHA standard state where we would be required to have one? For example, creating a GHA and indicating in the rare occurrences of something getting inside the eyes, you need it to be rinsed out. Please elaborate for a second opinion for me.
Okay, a couple things there. JHA is always a good idea. That's a job hazard analysis, and it sets you up for success, right? If I've already done a job hazard analysis, and it's not that it shouldn't be, it's you're one and done, but a job hazard analysis already sets you up for success. If something is going to be done, I can look at the job hazard analysis. I already know what's going to be required. I know what they're working with. I know what they're going to deal with. I know what PPE is required, what emergency equipment is required, and I can get to the bottom of that very quickly, or look into examples of what other people have dealt with. JHA is always good to go. But you and I are perfectly aligned on the SDS. The safety data sheet, Section 4 under first aid, tells us rinse your eyes for 15 minutes, rinse your skin off for 15 minutes, which tells us I need a combo unit or whatever, right? That is where we find out what type of equipment we need and how long it has to function. The longest I've seen one was 45 minutes, and that was for a highly corrosive substance, very thick substance. But yeah, we're perfectly aligned on the SDS. If it says you need one, you need one. okay? Now for construction sites, that's 1926, general standard. Also has the same in 1909 or 1910 section, but the requirement, what OSHA gives us is exactly the same. It's copy pasted from 1910 to 1926 in their standards. There's no difference at all, and they still suggest look at Z358.1 for the requirements of how this is supposed to function. But as far as when and where I need one, safety data sheet, right? What are you dealing with over there? Look at the safety data sheet. Yes, you need it. And that's, so I think Diane and I are aligned there.
Next question, are tepid water showers required per code/OSHA? That was submitted by Sam. Great name, and thank you for the submission.
Like not as crystal clear as it should be, right? Not in black and white. We covered 1910.151C, right? And that doesn't give us a lot of information. OSHA references Z358.1 as the tool for guidance and compliance with their own standard. So I guess my answer is like kind of. In short, OSHA recommends following Z358.1, which does require tepid water, as we're just not given enough information in 1910. So OSHA does require it, but they'll never officially adopt Z358.1 as far as I know. They will continue to use it as a reference point, but it is required to have that tepid equipment. Oh.
Next question from Kurt. Portable eye wash kits for pesticide applications.
Yeah, I highly recommend looking into a 7501. Our equipment, it's a portable, refillable, lightweight tank that can be just plopped down almost anywhere. There are, we covered supplemental equipment, and sometimes, you know, it is what it is. Maybe it's not perfect, but if you're out in a field or where you may be exposed to pesticides and you can't have a 7501 or a plumb unit for that matter, just anywhere, everywhere out there, every 55 feet, that supplemental equipment is pretty sweet. If you could attach it to a cart, tractor, belt loop, whatever, and have anything, something for them so that they can utilize it quickly. But if you're talking about manufacturing, of course, in chemical plants, you got plumbed equipment everywhere. But I have a feeling you're talking about like in the field out there, and that's a great way to do it. Use supplemental equipment. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's also unreasonable to think that we put a combo unit every 55 feet. That'd be just crazy. But look into the 7501. We have carts for or we have all kinds of stuff that you can pop into place and carts come. So what is next?
Next question is, do you have recommendations for an eye wash station for extremely cold regions? Do you have a location overseas for purchase? And that was from Socorro.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I would, on our website, in the top right, you will find the different regions for Hawsco. We are a global manufacturer of emergency equipment and drinking fountain bottle filler goods. So, and you can switch the region there on the website. Or for instance, you go to www.hawsco.ch or whatever, and go to their websites directly. But we manufacture equipment around the globe, and you can access our equipment just about anywhere. I would highly suggest for extremely cold regions, there are so many different options there. But if you just want an eye wash, a 7501T is excellent. That's a portable drop-in place with a heated jacket that you can just throw on the wall, and you're completely good. I also need to know how extremely we're talking as far as the temperature goes. But we have just a wild array of different options to help you with that particular situation, and most of those available around the world. So let us know or reach out directly, and we can help you get that figured out.
From Gwendolyn, are we required to culture eyewash water?
Gwendolyn. Like a good Gwendolyn. Nope. That's the short answer. Good old clean potable water is all that is required in an eye wash or in a shower. You're good to go. Even the standard itself under flushing fluid defines it as just clean potable water. But you don't have to take any additional steps. There is portable equipment where you're buying like a whole tank of water and you're getting that shipped to you and you have to throw it on your portable equipment. We stick with gravity fed stuff so you can just fill it up with standard potable water on site and add a little bottle of preservative to it or our 9083 cleansing stick. That thing's like 3 years, you're good to go. But you're not required to do anything else with the water.
Eye washes on construction sites. Best setup recommendations for usage and requirements. That question was asked by Bradley.
Bradley. So for construction sites, again, 1926, their OSHA's requirement will reference Z358.1, and you're looking at mobile stuff, temporary job sites, typically dirt, debris, and things of that nature. I would highly recommend a 7603 or a 7501, like I just mentioned. Those are pressurized and non-pressurized portable equipment. The 7603, though, comes with an optional drench hose that allows you to accomplish some body washing where you can't have like a safety shower. Although some construction sites will, tap into a water source and throw up a couple plumb units on site, but they can't cover everywhere, right? So I would highly suggest looking into our portable equipment, 7501 and our 7603. And if they're going to be sitting outside, also consider those heat trace jackets or our reflective jackets. We have heat reflective jackets that will allow them to sit outside, catch some sun without that temperature getting out of control. But that would be my recommendation.
Next question is how to select eye wash for the number of people at site, and that was from Mohammed.
Mohammed, my man, that is, it's not per capita, like, well, for instance, the other half of our business, drinking fountains, right? We look at a building and we say, okay, what's the occupancy? And we say, well, we need this many drinking fountains in the facility. For emergency equipment, it's more in line with a hazard analysis for the facility. Where are we going to have certain chemicals? What type of function is a certain part of the facility performing, right? If we're going to look at a hospital, right? I was just at a hospital. I was doing a survey not that long ago. And guess what? When you're in the morgue, an eye wash and a safety shower is a really good idea. But for instance, just as an example, if you're building that type of facility and you're expecting that type of function to happen inside of that part of the facility, like you're designing that for that function, we know that there's going to be a combo that's going to have to be used in there because of the type of chemicals that are used and the type of processes that are being done. It's probably not a super clean, easy process. So we have to design it based on the facility's functions or have a hazard analysis done. Certainly if the facility is secondhand, right, you're moving in or saying, oh, well, this is what we're going to use this part of the facility for, this is what we're going to use this part of the facility for, reference the safety data sheets and go forth with building or supplying emergency equipment based on the facility's function and what is going to be happening in that part of the facility. Otherwise, unfortunately, there's no like, we have 200 people in this facility, we need 20 showers. I wish it was that cut and clean, but it is not, unfortunately.
Next question is, what is the distance required for the piping between the recirculating main and the branch down to the fixture? That was submitted by Anonymous. Very mysterious.
Mysterious. The distance required between the piping, okay, so if you have a recirculation loop, for your water or supply line. And of course, you're going to tee off to that and you're going to bring that down to the endpoint, to the fixture. That distance you want as short as possible, right? If we have a continuous loop of water, say we're even heating that, right? We have 85-degree water on a loop in the facility, constantly available and ready, being supplied by a tempering skid, for instance, maybe one of our tempering skids. That's awesome. That's like the best setup. But we want that dead leg as short as possible between the main line and our fixture, for a couple of reasons. One, some people erroneously think when they do have that recirculating main line, there's going to be zero growth, right? The water's moving. We don't have stagnant water sitting in place. Unfortunately, we still have that very short dead leg from the main line to the fixture, and that water is not moving well or hardly at all in that dead leg, and you will get bacterial growth in there. And certainly depending on the temperature that you're keeping that water at. So make them as short as possible. Unfortunately, there's no actual distance defined in black and white for this process in the Z358.1 or 1910, etc. But ideally, just as absolutely short as possible between the two. Any other questions, Sam, that we want to sneak in?
Let me look for you. We have one from Jim. They ask, on the eye washes that hook to the faucet, do they need to be on the mixing valve, or is it okay to have an adjustable temp through the hot and cold handles?
It is okay to have the adjustable temp through the hot and cold handles. This is, as long as the process for activation is clearly defined from the manufacturer. For instance, we have one, the 7620, we call it the iPod. Apple's not coming for us anytime soon, we spelled it differently. But it's hot, cold on simultaneously is our requirement in our instructions. We want both of those on immediately, simultaneously, so we're getting that automatic mix from the fixture. And then a flip. All of that has to happen in under 1 second, which can be certified through third party. Ours is through CSA again. But mini fixtures, faucet mounted or sink mounted, mixing valve is a great way to go. That cuts a step out of it. Our 7610, 7611, 7612, etc. All sink mounted options. If you can put a permanent fixture next to the faucet that's hooked to that mixing valve, that's ideal. That's king. That's the best. But if you have to go with the faucet mounted option, they can be mixed just using the hot and cold faucet rather than something separate. Anything else?
We'll do one more from Jeffrey. He asks, how often do you need to flush portable eye wash stations?
Once a year, you have to activate them. So the annual requirement remains for portable equipment. You have to activate it, let it run for that 15 minutes or until it's empty, which should be just over 15 minutes. Ours, for instance, is designed to run at 15 minutes at a decent height. So we're not getting a dip in the actual pressure to the eye washes, and then taper off. So it'll probably run for like 15, 30, or 60 minutes. But once a year, you have to empty the tank. Otherwise, you're good to go. All right, which will bring us to the end of the webinar. Thank you. There's a lot of you that stuck around and hung out with us. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you got some good answers, and those were very good questions. Thank you very much for those. Again, our information was there on the screen, emojis, and I greatly appreciate you hanging out with us and attending, and we're all best friends now, so if you need me, that's my information. I'm happy to help. So with that, have a wonderful week. Thanks for being with us and learning about the Z358.1 standard and compliance and safety. Go forth, and teach and spread the word, and I'll see you around. Thanks, everybody.